wacha tuende kwanza kwa panel. By the way guys, we've lost Garissa Senator Mr. Yusuf Haji after he's been sick from 2020, and I think he's lived his life well. He has raised children who have given him honor. The guy knew Jamaa DPP. I think we saw him there during the Dusit Westgate attack. Alikuwa anaokoa watoto. I don't know what you guys have, any comments that you have to say on that, maybe the family and also any celebrations you have to make about Muse?
Yeah, indeed it is very sad to lose the Honorable Senator Yusuf Haji at this point in time when the country is going through a lot of novel political developments. But that as it may Allah receive him in heaven. He's done quite a lot for this country, and his sacrifice for the country is well recorded in history. But at the same time, Bitok, I want to send condolences to the two people in his family who I know personally. I want to send condolences to my friend Nuruddin Haji, who is the Director of Public Prosecutions, and his brother Abdul Haji. I know those people in person, so it would not be very kind if I did not say that indeed it is. I know it's a big loss for them. I know that the family is going through a lot, but we pray that they find peace and comfort at this point in time.
All right, we'll keep praying for the family. I hope they get better. But I mean, when you look at the life of Muse Haji, a lot of us might never be able to live that long, and maybe to live behind such a legacy. And it can only be a challenge that we try and do and be what we can to make a change that we you know, that we can be proud of, and also live back and see your children, the kind of legacy. I think for a man, you know, we men, we come, we live, and we go. I think the biggest legacy that a man can leave is not property, because property comes and goes. It's about the family, the kind of family that you raise, and the people that you leave behind. And I wonder, as a man, you know, when you look at such great men fall, what is it that you think about? What goes through your mind?
Bitok, you throw some very tough bullets sometimes, questions that force someone to really introspect. But I think the conversation of mortality is difficult, and I think it is much more difficult in our regions. But I think man after man that has gone keeps reminding us that at the end of the day, what we accumulated really does not matter as much as the families that we leave behind. And I think the departure of every great man in this country should remind all of us men, particularly those of us that are younger and have kids that we are bringing up. It should be yet another question on, are we spending enough time with our families, with our children? Are we imparting values in them? Because at the end of the day, it is the values that will hold everything together. I think we have seen very embarrassing moments when you know, families cannot even hold for a week to bid you know, great deceased men, you know, a decent send-off. They begin fighting for what has been left behind immediately. And I think it is therefore a very good reminder that, first of all, nobody comes out of this other life. We all go through the same path. And I think we need to have the end in mind, and we need to ask ourselves, what is it that I'm doing today to make sure that I leave a legacy of a good family when I am finally departed?
What is that legacy that you want to leave? Tomorrow, kuna siku tutasikia tu Eriko ametuacha in the next 200 years. Just anytime soon. Yeah. Well, is that something that you really wish you could live? Yeah,
you know, I think being in the second half of my life, because I'm past the age of 35, you know, taking the normal lifespan to be 70 means that I'm obviously in the second half of my life. I think you begin to realize that it's not about you, that actually you will live into the future, not through yourself, but through your children and through your grandchildren and through your great-grandchildren. And the heritage that you must impart in them is much more about values. And I think the legacy that I would like to leave behind is to catapult my children to be able to do greater things than I will do in my own life.
Right. Yeah. I think Captain Wanderi is you are a senior here. And I don't want to know what as you grow old, what are the thoughts that you start having, especially about the legacy that you want to leave behind?
Bitok, when we say the way of men, and a man is not just a vessel. A man is supposed to be the patriarch, the leader, the connoisseur, the person who sets the vision for an institution. And there is no other bigger institution than the family, because a family makes a clan, and a clan makes a community, and communities make a society, and societies make nations. If you look at the life that the late Honorable Senator Yusuf Haji has lived, it's a honorable life. He has been in the public service for very long. Now, if you look at people who've gotten to the level which he has gotten, many of them have scars in terms of accusations of maladministration, misuse of their positions to advance personal interest. If you also look at some of the children some of these people have left, they have been the troublesome type, the people who cannot give other way along our roads because of arrogance. But if you look at the contribution that Mzee has made, Mzee has left a mark, and that mark has been left because he has kions. We saw the bravery of his own son moving to a scene of active combat, shooting combat, to rescue other people, knowing very well that he was putting his life on the line for other people. How many children of people of that level do we see doing such selfless acts in this country? Very few. So, as my friend Eric has said, all said and done, as you sojourn along the earth, in the earth, or wherever, whatever you do, one of the things that you can leave in this world is a legacy, not of your own, but a legacy of what we see after you are gone. Because
something that outlives you.
Yes, something that outlives you, or people who outlive you. You can imagine some of the parents who've worked very hard. We already see, Eric is even going further. We're seeing sons and daughters who are suing their fathers to inherit their property when their fathers and their mothers are still alive. You don't wish a patriarch away when the patriarch created you, made you what you are. You do not exist without yourself. You exist because somebody made a deliberate decision to set up an institution called the family, raise you up, and make you what you are. So when you start fighting the patriarch ahead of you, you're actually fighting yourself, and such kind of people don't succeed. But those who leave behind a strong legacy, strong men, and I say this because I have this belief that men are the vision carriers in any society. There is a joke that was going on around that a company is hiring people to carry sacks of cement on their backs, 100 sacks, kilo sacks. And so in the spirit of gender equality, needed that the ladies then who are going to be hired, so they were required to apply. Not to say that our sisters cannot do that, but in terms of gender roles, we clearly have a clear division of the gender roles. So it falls upon men, and when I say the way of men, to leave that kind of legacy, to set up the pace and create a society, because a country of strong men is a strong country.
True. So we need to build more men. I think even before we leave that discussion, there's something you mentioned about the transition of wealth and values. You know, as a patriarch, as you said, is to set a standard of how your generation want your generation to be. But at most of the time, you realize that where you end, a lot of things end, and a totally different traction or direction in your family begins to set. The other day, I saw jacarandas being auctioned. I think it'll be passing last night. So it's becoming a bush every single day. So on Friday or Thursday, I saw in the newspapers it being auctioned. Now, Njenga Karume built an empire that probably, if that guy woke up today, I think he'll just die again because of heart attack. Looking at how these things are going around. I mean, we do a lot. We, as men, we try to set something that we know can outlive us. Because a man's legacy is something that goes beyond them. What do you think happens in between? Where's the disconnect between us and the generations that we live with things? What happens?
I think in that I would sit on the fence. And I probably will have a small fight with my elder captain and say that perhaps for the great men that have lived in this country, whether economically or politically, I would think that perhaps there was a disconnect in how they brought up their children, to an extent that the kids would not fit in their shoes in their departure. I think it is the responsibility of the parents to look at what they do and be able to incorporate the children into it. Bitok, when I look at the generation that is 10, 15 years older than me, I would say that their fathers, their parents, some of their parents really believed, for example, in taking the children abroad, in the diaspora, to go and study there. And, they went there, many of them went there for 10, 15, 20 years, while at the same time their fathers were running businesses here. And when they come back a decade or a decade and a half later, the father's businesses or the parents' businesses have grown, the empire have grown. But you know what? This child does not have the connections of the father, does not have the experience of the father, is not properly knit into the business of the father, and therefore this child would not be able to take over this business. I think that is one of the mistakes that has happened. I think the older generation also has been way better in holding to what they do emotionally than any other generation. It's my business. I'm the one who started this school. I'm the one who started this hotel. I'm the one who started this hospital. And therefore, I am not able to let go and have my son come and take over, and move it forward from where it is. But then also, it would be hypocritical for us to just blame the older generation or to blame our parents. I think as the younger generation, also we have been completely impatient. We do not want to trust the process. We would not believe when we meet our fathers' empires as big empires. We would not believe where our father started when they tell us the stories, because maybe there's a day the father was both the cleaner, the accountant, the person making all the calls. And when the father tells you how low he started, you don't want to believe, and you don't want to start there. Bitok, you find that, if you tell your son to come here and start by cleaning your studio, he doesn't want to do that. He wants to start. He wants to start at the microphone. He wants to start by talking to the country. So I think there are mistakes that the old generation has made, but I think the greater mistakes have been made by the younger generation, which has an attitude of just consuming.
Consumer attitude.
Yeah, consumer attitude. Tugawia hii mari tukule. We mzai, to an extent,
songa tukule.
Like Captain says, the kids view like their parents are standing in the way of them distributing this wealth and starting to eat it up, which is a big menace that we currently have in this society. My take, I don't know.
That's really sad. Ndio nasikia mahali kuna wamama mjane mwenye ameachiwa anaitwanga nini kwa Kikuyu?
Captain, you can help me there.
Mwenye ameachiwa mahali wanaitanga kwa widow.
The widow. It's called mutumia wadigwa.
Na kuachiwa kuna kajina kingine, someone used it somewhere. That's like the reason why a lot of people in Central Kenya, probably in Kiambu, ni watu ambao wameachiwa. Aliyoachiwa vitu. Now, where is the disconnect? Yeah, bas. Here, bas. Here. Where is the disconnect, sir?
Yeah, we talk. Urbanization and mercantilism is a fairly new concept to Africa. It is only in Africa where, you see, you've started an enterprise here. As Eric is challenging you, bring your son here, and in about 10 years, I would want to see your photograph starting Bitok Gerard 1. Then there is the other Bitok. That's what you find in countries like Italy, in cities like Rome and Paris. You go to an establishment and you can see the history.
And also Asian companies as well.
Yes, and you're seeing photographs of great, when people go to 1670, because it's challenging. I got challenged when I saw a photograph and a young man was telling me, these are my ancestors. Okay, they started this company, this hotel. 300 years of history. So how many of our people in Africa are doing that? If we look at the so-called princely families in Kenya, they're doing at most 100 years, the Michukis, the Karumes, So, and you can see there isn't, I like what Eric, you've confessed, that there is an impatience of sticking to tradition. In fact, the youth call it the laziness of tradition. which is very sad. When today something has been reported in the Business Daily. You have the share of Safaricom hitting a high of 38.50. 38 shillings 50 cents. Bitok, do you know that 10 years ago the share of Safaricom was 2 shillings and 50 cents?
Yeah.
We are talking of what kind of increase in value? It's monumental.
Sure. Yes.
And how many? If you looked at 10 years ago, you probably buying a mobile phone worth 100,000. Suppose you had the patience and the temperament to know that the future feeds on the past, which is what our youth, that's what I'd address the youth, that the future feeds or depends on the past. What you do today will determine how you will live 10 years to come. It's not the other way around. So let me go to the parents. What the disconnect? You see, with urbanization being a recent concept, we're not recording down the steps we make. We carry diaries, we carry pads. I don't know how much you write, Bitok, but I write heavily. I'm a heavy writer.
My notepad is a lot.
Yeah. And what I do is I want my daughter, to start reading my history. I don't want her to be told by other people. Wow. And I want her 10 years from today to say, I am what I am because I am my father's daughter. And this is the problem we have, that, as you say, we have a disconnect. That if I am not writing and recording the things I'm doing and where I'm going daily and what I'm accumulating, not just in terms of wealth, but in terms of knowledge, then my child will have nothing to hold on. And to hold on, it's not wealth. Actually, friendships, the relationships you say, Derek, count the most. That's why I know there are certain families where people want to quarrel and fight over families. But you have very strong people, very strong friends. For example, you saw the Michukis, and there was a very strong intervention from the friends of the late minister, Mzee Kibaki, other people, they will intervene. But I also want to look at what happened to the Kiremas. You had one of the sons going to court and saying that because the business is Kirema and Sons, I was an adult when it was started. So I ought to be, the Sons means me. And then we go to we call him the chairman of the men's conference, Mzee Kibor, the sage. And I like to read about that man because he doesn't have the airs of and the aura of the government machinery around him. He's self-made. And he's in the grassroots. He's a good example that you can succeed without getting mired into politics, theft, corruption in the public service. And he succeeded. He has an empire. But you can see one of the issues he's been raising is a quarrel with some of his offspring. Yeah. And this is what I'm saying, the impatience and failing to understand what you call what the youth call the laziness of tradition is actually what builds empires. You accumulate over time. You don't make instant. It's not instant coffee.
True.
The guy who bought 1 million shares of Safaricom, for example, 10 years ago at 250, you spent 2.5 million. How much is he worth today?
It's big money.
It's worth big money. And this is what we need to be showing the young people. Bitok, I don't know when you entered the Nairobi Stock Exchange, but I had an account there when there was no CDSC, way back in 1998. And I know a lot of people will want to argue, it's a waste of time. No, but you accumulate over time. And you keep plowing back. That if I bought 1,000 shares of one of the strong counters, because I choose finance, banking, and then industrialization and technology now, I keep plowing back. So if I get a dividend of 300,000, I buy shares, because I may not need that money instantly. So that at my age and 5 years to come, I will perhaps retire completely from waking up to go to the office. But I cannot do that if I don't prepare for it today. So young people, ladies and gentlemen below 35, you don't start planning for retirement at 45. You start planning for retirement the day you get your national identity card.
At 18?
At 18.
You unaanza kupanga mambo ya retirement.
Yes.
That's quite interesting. And you talked about patience. There's someone who told me that there's an old man somewhere who told me a business guy has been in business for the longest time. And he was mentioning the thing that you talked about, the pain of tradition, the patience, the process. Eric calls it trusting the process.
Yeah.
And a lot of young people like jumping from one thing to the other. Unakuja leo, unafungua ka studio, unasema, naonanga kuna watu wanatazama. Yuruka, unaenda unasikia kuna mtu amefungua bar. Unaenda unafungua bar, unakaa miezi 2, hakuna watu kuna walevi. Unaenda unafungua kanisa kidogo, watu wa 310 watoika kitu. I mean, we have this thing, we are like a rolling rock, that gutters no more. We keep moving. And you're telling me that as a young man, you need to find something that you can do consistently for 10 years. If you want to be successful, find something, I've remembered it because you mentioned about 10 years, planning today how you want to live in 10 years. And you was telling me, as a young person, if you want to succeed, if you want to be known for something, start doing something that you can do consistently. Every morning, every day, 24 hours a day, for 10 years. Without tiring, without questioning yourself. That's when you're going to be successful. And a lot of young people these days, we don't have that patience of Ukaya kiosk. When you look at the way most shops, I know someone in my village who came in from nowhere, hata sijui jamaa alitokanga wapi. Akafungua ka kiosk. Na akaishi nyuma ya duka. Alifungua ka duka na akakata katikati, ilikuwa nyumba ya matope at that time when shops were mud houses. Katikati alikuwa anaishi hapo nyuma na shit pale mbele anauza. Today that guy he owns the biggest wholesale shop in our area. He has built the biggest house in Hebod. He's bought, I think, around 15 acres of land just behind us, behind Amadora. And it is just 1 shilling. Unaongeza kashilingi. And you wonder how many of us have the patience to sit in one place. Unaweza ambia ukae kwa kiosk kuanzia asubuhi mpaka jioni kuuza sweet. You're making 2 shillings profit. I think that's the biggest disconnect that we have as a generation that is so impatient and keeps running. You want instant, tunaita wa microwave generation. Unataka kutengeneza chai na microwave, utaki sufuria, unaweka kwa kikombe, yes, unaweka majani, unadunga kama maziwa, unaweka microwave, 2 minutes you have your tea. And I think that's what that's what I think we're really missing out as young people. And you want to see most of this wisdom coming from you. Watu ambao mmekaa huko sana kama kina captain, huyu jamaa ni Rikango. Lakini sema anajua the process.
Yes. You've talked about, that person selling kiosk, rising up to something. It's called consistency of purpose.
Yeah.
And let's challenge ourselves as men. When I say the way of men, there's a book known as The Way of Men. And
which book is that? We need to read it.
I will give you both of you a copy.
I'll appreciate it.
Hallelujah.
It's a soft copy.
Homework.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah. The reason is that when we define what is a man just a physical being with long legs, a huge body, and facial hair? Is that what a man is? That's not what a man is. A man is something greater. Look at the people who created America, the people who founded the United States. Look at the history of that country. Kamala Harris is actually the first female vice president.
True.
In the history of the United States. How many years of history?
A very long time.
Very long.
Many years, yes.
Look at Great Britain, the United Kingdom of Great Britain. First female prime minister, Margaret Thatcher. After how many years of independence? 500 years. You see, I keep saying this, that the moment you have a society that denigrates men, and I don't talk men in terms of masculinity, what we call masculinity is just somebody standing up with long legs and facial hair. No. What is that manhood,
the concept,
the essence of being a man and being something and living, producing, creating and living something. That's the essence of manhood. And any society that denigrates its own men and looks down on them, puts them down, does not succeed. Trust me, it doesn't go very far. And not to say that our mothers are not important. Actually, they're the most important to us as men, because that's where we get our first nurturing. The first food you get as a man is not from anywhere else. It's from woman, your mother. The connection, the emotional connection you have with your mother can never be replaced with anything, not even by a wife. Perhaps a daughter would come close. But you see, when we talk about a society with men and men of purpose, men who create, men who not just propagating other human beings, but also propagating ideas and ideals, then you can change society. That consistency of purpose. What is this that you do, as you say, for 10 years? Don't even go far. Give yourself, a lot of people wait for New Year and say, oh, I have a New Year resolution. I mean, really? You live by the year? I don't live by the year, Eric and Bitok. I live in a span of 5 years.
Wow.
And in 5 years, I was lucky to meet older men who taught me that they told me that never plan in 1 year. In fact, 1 year should be sub-plans for the 5 years. And in those 5 years, you have to achieve something. And what is it that you want to achieve? Do you want to achieve just the accumulation of money? And I remember one of my the men who taught me told me that money is a byproduct of what you do on a daily basis.
Wow.
It's not the motivation.
It's not the thing that you
It's
go
not
for.
the thing.
Yeah.
Okay? Because if it were the thing, then why you money yourself? Because somebody brought you up. No. So looking after a child, spending a time even with that child, going out with them, showing them how things are done, that is manhood. Okay? That is manhood. To this day, you have a situation where some men call their mothers, particularly in central Kenya, for anything. Bitok, it's a problem. There's no day my mother gave me school fees. No. Even if she had the money, she would wait until her husband was back. Then he would summon me and my brothers to a meeting. Give us his words and tell you, I have given you this money. Me and your mother have no any other money. If you lose the money, then also get lost. No?
Whoever steals the money should steal you also.
I learned from a long time ago that some things like construction, my mother would not get involved. She will tell you that's your father's business. You see, then you learn. So this is something that is done by fathers. This is other thing is done by mothers. And you see those gender roles, when you begin to split them in the name of what I call toxic femininity, you lose it, because there are certain things, and that is why you can see you wake up very well, dressed nicely, smartly, because you saw other people do it. Did you learn this from a female?
No.
You saw other men doing it.
Yeah.
Okay? You are in business, and every day you know it is hard, but you're persevering because you've seen others come before you. So I would also challenge the women. If you think that it's on your side, also do something great so that you also leave us a good legacy. Because my good son and your good son needs to meet somebody's good daughter.
Sure. Allow me to digress a bit, and when we come back, we'll also look. I would want us to get back at that conversation on men. You know, there's a conversation I've been having with Eric for the longest time, and I want us to crack it again, because I feel that is where we are going. Let me just give some guys here some shout-outs. Josiah Kinuthia, there's a guy who's a really good fan. Josiah Kinuthia has been at MP Sha. He's been unwell. I think we need to go and see Josiah. Josiah Kinuthia, please inbox me, send me your number. Alafu tuambie uko wapi hapo. MP Sha will come and see you. Nico Thiong'o anasema from Kakamega County, I'm watching, and pole to Haji family. Poleni sana. Simeon Ngata anasema Washington State locked. Mungen Mutetezi, good morning, watching from Bomet. Malakwen Kibed Mtaya anasema chamgia asante sana. Jakam Senior anasema your toughest lessons can lead to your biggest blessings. They also teach you a lot about life and make you see reality. Remember, the bed of roses you're used to is not real life. but more importantly, the challenge will make you stronger than you ever imagined yourself to be. All right, asante sana Jaka Masinia. My good brother Johnston K. Kotu anasema good morning bro. Good morning to you my brother, good to see you this morning. Malakwet Kibet Mutaya anasema ways Kitobu Imanyara. Haya, swala nyeti. It's all the way from Ghana anasema iko tuned in. Morewa Idhanje, how I wish SRC joined hands with ERT to adjust the fuel prices up to get cash for health workers just like they have done for MCA grants. Tunalazimishwa BBI nonsense na watoto wake lazima. Haya, Kariunga Kamusinga, it's always a pleasure having Eric Mwangi on set. May Musa souls rest easy. You are Ruchep Kosgei. Sama good morning. Vajep Kiamaza mwenye walipata hiyo maua inawasaidia aje? Wachaneni ma feelings bwana. Kama kupata maua tulia pole pole. Meza kinyongo pole pole. Honorable Dan Konde, some breaking news. Yusuf Haji is dead. Arabi to him. Asante sana. Titus Komora, good morning, listening from Cheranga Nils. Thank you so much guys from Cheranga. Watu wa Diani, Nelchias Murasa, good morning. Arabi talk salamu nyingi kutoka Diani. Ajabu tukula sana. Go see you. Musimba Rab Junior Bwire bitok kumwambia mukisa kitu vizuri jana. Eti nani photographer wake. Philip Arab Senior, I'm watching live from Molo. Mwiti Kaburu, great conversation to start off the week. Thank you so much. That is how we intend. We need to start off the week on the right note. That's why we have these conversations on Mondays. Wilfred Kimuta says, following from Eldoret, Kagifate, good morning. Tatako, good morning to you. Tetas Kechirchir, and Sabu, good morning, bro. Good morning to my brother, Apollo Mpiri, watching live from Lenana, Ngong Road. Asante sana. Abdimali Kaji, watching live from Takwel, Turkana. Thank you to all the guys from Turkana. Mutisia, Simi, and Sama tuned in. Keo Kwara Dega, watching from Tigoni Limuru. All wisdom oozing from the gentleman. Flohira Saga, good morning. Katoni Kadomi, some are drinking from the pot of your wisdom, guys. Thank you. Honorable Kipkembai, Piegon politician. Honorable Kipkembai, Piegon, good morning. Tuned in, Arabi Yusuf Aji, Senator. All right. I want us to go to the fuel, Kidogo. We digress a bit, then we come back. Fuel prices are up. Diesel, petrol, and kerosene and all that. These are the time when we have not even recovered from, recovered from the economic meltdown from coronavirus. How does that make you feel? I mean, these are the time when the global oil prices are down. All over you, everywhere you go, the prices of fuel is low. Gasoline is low in other countries. What's going on in Kenya?